Hello, I'm John Selker, and I'm really pleased that you've decided to use our textbook and materials for learning about soil hydrology and biophysics. I wanted to say a few things about the approach we're using to give you a little bit of context for how this is organized. Firstly, I want to talk about scale. In many soil physics texts, the scale runs from that of the grains of a porous media to approximately the first couple of meters of soil, looking at infiltration processes, etc. What we would like to do in this textbook is keep on going to larger scales. And what we see and what we want to emphasize is that at these larger scales, processes that may have been dominated, such as capillarity, begin to be superseded by other scale-related processes. Particularly, gravity typically comes to play very strongly over capillarity, and as well, even in many cases, the actual thermal gradient of heat in the earth, which has a fundamental scale, becomes dominant. And so we think that there's a lot to be learned by going across scales and then seeing when certain formulations come and also become less important for description. The second thing I'd like to take care of in this introduction is a little bit about our thinking with respect to levels of learning and understanding. And this conceptualization has kind of structured our writing a bit. And so we see four levels here. The first level of learning is conceptual itself. So really understanding the underlying physical principles, not necessarily putting numbers to them, but being able to say this was an issue of momentum, this is an issue of shear, whatever it might be, the understanding of the basic physics of the problem, or the basic biology and chemistry as well. But framing the problem, if you will, and having it properly framed, of course, is fundamental, and understanding how to balance these things. The second out of the four levels is quantification. And that is to say that now we have this understanding, now we can actually put numbers in, and we can say, aha, the capillary forces are this, the momentum is that, etc., and put numbers to them. And then we take basic concepts and put them into equation form. But this still is not applicable. To make information applicable, we have to look at how these solutions fit into the real world, into the non-idealities. So the first level of real application is being able to understand in a structured context those things which might influence a particular process, say for example infiltration, and then be able to account for a few of those terms such that you get the right infiltration estimate. The final level of learning is when you have expert insights. And so when you can actually say that, hey, this infiltration process is actually going to be dominated by the particulars of this site. Or when you look at a new site, being able to say that, hey, on this site, there are these particular features which are going to mean that we must use this strategy. So be able to pick the appropriate strategy. It turns out in unsaturated processes, these are very challenging and subtle decisions to be made. And so that arrival at expert prediction is yet another significant jump from simply being able to choose an equation that would be appropriate if the conditions were ideal. So that's a little bit about this book. We really hope you appreciate the approach. We think that the videos will feed both in the qualitative understanding, so you get the right context, but even going to the expert level, we can put in subtleties and ideas where judgment must be used that are very difficult sometimes to express in the written word. So we are pleased to have you as our audience and as our participants and our colleagues in this effort, and we look forward to this being useful and hearing your feedback should you have any new ideas for us.